What we're marking here today is the 29th anniversary of the murder of Angelo Bruno. March 21st, 1980, a rainy night. His car's parked right in front of his house. Someone armed with a shotgun walks up, shoots him in the back of the head. And that's kind of the beginning of the end of the Philadelphia mob. Bruno had always maintained that he didn't want his organization involved in drug dealing. And so guys were dealing drugs on the side, on the sneak. And one of the guys who was dealing a lot of drugs was his consigliere, Antonio Tony Bananas Caponegro, based in Newark. Caponegro was making a lot of money in gambling, loan sharking, but he also was dealing, I think it was heroin. He was upset with Bruno. Bruno wasn't taking advantage of the different opportunities, and he thought the drug ban was nonsense. In the late 1970s, Rosario and Giuseppe Gambino, cousins of Carlo Gambino, were part of a big Sicilian mafia heroin operation, later became known as the Pizza Connection. Rosario and Giuseppe open up a nightclub in Cherry Hill, New Jersey called Valentino's. And they come and pay tribute to Bruno. They're in his jurisdiction, so to speak, and they're going to operate here. What's more, he had them here for dinner on Easter Sunday. And the supposition within the organization was, if they were giving Bruno money, that was drug money. And there was a certain hypocrisy involved in Bruno saying, we can't deal drugs, but he's letting these two drug dealers set up and make a lot of money in his territory. Now, Caponegro was upset about this, and Caponegro, in addition to being the consigliere of the crime family, is the head of the North Jersey faction of the Philadelphia mob. They always had a branch in Newark, New Jersey. And Tony Bananas had a $2 million bookmaking operation up there. And several years before this, Caponegro was involved in a dispute with the Genovese crime family. The Genoveses had their hands in a lot of different things: gambling, loan sharking, junketeering, all of those kind of things. They wanted to get their hooks into the bookmaking operation. There was a big sit down in front of the Mafia Commission, and the Genoveses were not allowed to have a piece of this bookmaking operation. Now we fast forward to 1980, 7 or 8 years later. Caponegro wants to eliminate Bruno. He talks to some Genovese crime family members in Newark, and they give him the nod. They say, the commission's okay, do what you got to do. He takes this as an okay, an authorization to murder Bruno. And on the night of March 21st, Bruno is in fact killed. Angelo Bruno had dinner on the night he was killed at Cousins Little Italy, and he was driven back to his house by a new arrival to Philadelphia, a guy named John Stanfa. Stanfa, in fact, was a made member of the Sicilian mob, and to this day there's a dispute about whether Stanfa was part of the conspiracy to kill Bruno or just was an unwitting participant in that he drove him home that night. No one knows for sure. Some people even say that the gunman that night was Tony Bananas, that he was the kind of guy who would do this himself. Tony Bananas thinks he's going to be named boss after this. Goes to New York for a meeting where he thinks he's going to be crowned the new head of the Philadelphia mob, and instead he is garroted, stabbed, choked, brutally beaten, and his body is left in the Bronx with $20 bills stuffed in a lot of different openings in his body. The signal was he had gotten too greedy, he had killed a mob boss, and this is what happens when you kill a mob boss. 3 or 4 other guys involved in the murder, the plot to kill Bruno, also turned up dead, including Frankie Sindone down here in South Philadelphia. The Genovese crime family takes over the bookmaking operation that they wanted 7 or 8 years earlier. They had double-crossed Caponegro, and they also destabilized things down here in Philadelphia. So it was a double cross involving drugs and involving Tony Bananas Caponegro, who thought he was going to be the boss and ended up dead. Next on Mob Scene, a look at Gregory Quigley, the lawyer caught up in the Delco Nostro investigation, and a story of politics and strange bedfellows, South Philadelphia style.